myself in the frame here. Can I? Yeah, I think this is good. All right, welcome to another video. It is a lovely January day here, as you can see. I'm wearing shorts and not even wearing my beanie. So, you know it's a good day when I'm not wearing my beanie. The sun's out, the light's beautiful, and we are nowhere spectacular, I must say, but I've always found this building kind of interesting. So today we're going to talk about photography and how it is a practiced skill, not just an art. So I don't exactly know what I was going to say about that specifically. Let's see. Yes. So when I used to think about photography, I used to think about going to these epic places, taking, the hero shot, right? Like the very scenic overlooks, beautiful landscapes, stuff like that. But thinking about photography, you got to practice it, right? It's not just like you can walk up to those beautiful places and take really good photos automatically. You got to practice. And so today, that's what I'm here to do. I'm in nowhere particularly very interesting, but we're just going to practice and see what we come up with. So let's do it. I've always found this building quite interesting for really no reason. I don't know, but I think the side light coming through the trees makes it kind of pretty interesting. So did I mention it's a beautiful day? I think I did. Kind of the main thing I've been thinking about lately in terms of practicing photography is, the point of some shoots is not to get art that you're gonna put on your wall, I think it's important to have shoots that there is no pressure to do that. You're just kind of practicing, kind of canoodling, as they say. Well, apparently, canoodling does not mean what I thought it meant. And just kind of exploring. So there's no pressure on it. You're not creating anything of that. Well, it's not that it's not a value, but it's more about the process than the final images, I think it's important to remember that not every photo you're going to take is going to be print worthy. And in reality, most of the photos you take are not going to be print worthy. And that's normal. So that's what I'm doing here today, is taking not print worthy shots. I'm going to try something here. I was watching a video a couple days ago that was talking about exposure and how you should, well, not that you should, but just an idea that try pushing the exposure as high as you can without clipping. So I'm gonna try to turn on zebras. I don't know how to do that. I gotta look this up. Shooting menu, highlight display. Brother. Shooting menu, highlight display. That's not in there. Okay, I'm just gonna not do this. This is wasting my time. Bruh. So this kind of gives you an idea of the lighting that I'm kind of going for. This is pretty cool. So I'm seeing 3 trees here. Oh, that's cool. Again, not particularly interesting location that we are at. This is just literally on my drive home. But, you know, every time I drive home, it's kind of at around this time, and I see this type of lighting, and it's beautiful. So I think it's also important to, even when you're not actively thinking about photography, just paying attention to what's around you and like noticing light, noticing interesting subjects or things that you could take pictures of at some point. Just taking mental notes of those things. It's also good practice to get into as a photographer, I think. So, just kind of taking some more photos. So I think photography, it is creative, right? But it's also a skill. And just like any other skill, you have to practice. So it's almost like, it's like doing drills. Or I was an athlete, so I think of sports metaphors. So like if you're on a sports team, you don't just join the team and then play a game. You do practices to practice your skills, do drills, kind of different things to get you better at the overall sport, and then you go and play the game. So in photography, kind of think of like going out and shooting that beautiful landscape shot, like planning out this shot. That's what I think of as a game, you know? So that's the performance of photography. But you can't just show up to a location and perform perfectly without all this practice beforehand. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is just practicing with no expectations of kind of getting anything out of it other than reps, basically. You know, get some photography reps going here, man. And you know, you never know when you're gonna get lucky with either lighting or maybe a subject in frame. So I think a lot of the time also, the photos that you see that are amazing, that you think, wow, that is a beautiful photo. Sometimes there's a lot of planning that goes into it, but sometimes it's just people being in the right place at the right time with the right light. So the more you get out and practice, the higher chance that you're gonna be in that situation where you get lucky. So that's also something to think about. But I don't know, do what you will with that information, I guess. We are gonna lose light pretty soon, so trying to think of any last shots. This might be a little bit of a short shoot, but that's all right with me. Lovely. It's not that interesting, but I have an idea. Okay, I have a concept. This is my idea. Don't know if it's gonna be worth it, but you know what? We'll see. Okay. This makes it much easier to compose a shot like this. So, I can see it. I could see it creating something interesting. So, you know, another thing about practicing is it just gets you outside, man. It's been raining a lot and cold, and it's nice to be able to, well, do this, I guess. So, anyway,
I guess we should get on canoodling. Okay.
Sick. One final try before the light skedaddles for the night. Might try not a straight on shot for this. Just kind of, yeah, nothing particularly interesting, but I think there's kind of a charm in that, you know? Kind of a charm in Charmin? The worst toilet paper brand of all time? Yes. Anyway, there's a type of charm, is what I was saying, about places that don't really have any interest. A little bit more fun to play around photographically. That's the word I was looking for. Photographically. This one's very experimental. But I think that's kind of cool. Experimental self-portraiture, kind of. Or maybe. Nah, that's dumb. What am I thinking? Most of the time I don't know what I'm thinking. Which, it's funny how the brain works like that, huh? Your brain thinks the thoughts, but then your brain also doesn't understand the thoughts that you think. Does that make any sense? Maybe the fact that I don't understand that proves it to be correct. This is the kind of light that I was kind of thinking about. I like this photo, actually. Imagine liking a photo that I take. Wow. Couldn't be me. Trying to do a little abstract. I think also when you're out practicing photography, when there's kind of no expectations of a performance, I guess, it kind of allows you to be more open to different things. Because you're like, I would never have taken this photo to put on my wall, right? And so if that's kind of the whole point of why you're shooting all the time, either posting it on Instagram, putting it on your wall, whatever, then it's hard to give yourself permission to take photos like this one, because it's kind of like, what's the point, you know? But I think there is a point to it. I'm not seeing much else, and the sun is going away from us, unfortunately. Do see one more shot I actually want to get. I do enjoy this lighting. It's very, very nice. So for this, there's a couple things I'm looking at, paying attention to the edges of the frame. So paying attention to, well, let me just take the photo first and then explain. So I'm paying attention to a couple things. The corner of the path in the bottom right, the bush on the bottom left, and the tree in the top left. So, again, edges of the frame are very important. And here, I will just take, I'll cut off all three and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. So, relatively the same composition, but there's no breathing room with any of those elements, and it looks not as appealing to me. So there you go. Ow. All right. Sharp. So this is kind of a spot that I can see myself coming back to many times with different light. I think that's a completely different way of shooting, but having those places that are somewhat interesting to explore that are close. I think that's good. Think of it as the training ground. It's like going to practice. I was a swimmer, so going to swim practice. This is kind of going to photography practice. That is my 2 cents on photography. It is not just an art, not just a creative endeavor, but it is a practice skill. And I think it's important to go out and practice with no expectations of performance of any kind. Just meander with the camera and see what happens. So, yeah. Thank you for joining me on this nice, sunny January afternoon. I am getting cold. The sun has departed for the evening, so I will go make myself a cup of tea and give Courage some pets. I think that is what I'll do for the rest of the evening. So, thanks again for listening to me. I will see you in the next one.